Hello. Good to be with everybody. The two of us are very grateful to be here together and with all of you, and just staring at each other off the stage there, just wondering how we got here. And I told him I should not have taken that left-hand turn in Albuquerque. Because I spent too long a time before I found this place. I spent half a century looking for you guys and finally arrived. So. That detour in Albuquerque took me a long time to get out of, but I'm here, and I'm very glad to be with all of you, and I'm excited to where this conversation is going to begin, because about 2 months ago, Richard and I were hiking along the stunning coast of the UK here in an area called Devon, and we shared many things over an 8-hour walk and the sunset together, and the most beautiful story that has stuck with me is going to be shared with you right now by Richard, and I think it's one of the most stunningly beautiful stories that humankind will ever hear. And so with the deepest gratitude, I'm going to get to witness all of you opening your heart to this story and feel my heart open 1,000 times further with this story of this man who, every time I get to hang out with him, including our tea ceremony together this morning, which was more like laughter than ceremony, but as we sat and drank tea in the sunrise this morning in the middle of the tents, I was swept into a moment of like Prince Caspian, and we were in some far-off land of witches and everything else, and there was tents, and it was silent, and there was dew shimmering everywhere, and the rain had cleared the air, and it was just absolute magic that was ready to happen today. So honored to be here with this man who lights us all up in the hearts and minds, and this story requires a moment of silence, I think, before he steps in, because what you're about to hear is so precious, and sometimes we just get these pearls that make life worth living, and you're about to get a pearl. And so let's just take a moment of silence together, and if it's looking up into the sky or down, wherever you're comfortable at the horizon, but after a moment, take a deep breath with your eyes closed, and Richard's going to take us on a journey.
Hello, everyone. So this is the first time I've shared this story other than with Zach. And, you know, conversations around the campfires here are about the changes that are happening in the world, and how do we keep up with them, and how do we make sense of them, and how can we contribute? All those kind of questions, as well as all the questions of conspiracy and all of those conversations woven in. And it's rich and it's deep. And so we wanted today to just fast forward beyond all this. I want to take you just for 10 minutes into a contemplation together. And the contemplation is way, way forward in the future. You know, so when we've passed through this time and we've passed through this great change, and perhaps trauma has happened, perhaps crisis has happened, perhaps a lot of things have happened, perhaps we've been saved by extraterrestrials, who knows? But we're in the far future, in the final yuga, the final epoch of humanity. And in that final epoch, the earth is calm again. So if you want to just turn your senses inward, you can keep your eyes open if you like, it doesn't matter, but just turn your senses inward and join me in this little contemplation of what does the far future us, Earth, look like? So imagine you're here in this glade, and you're surrounded by these mighty trees, and the whole of Gaia is alive, is verdant, is resonant with the frequencies of life, unimpeded frequencies of life. There's a richness, there's a crackling electricity and energy in the air. There's a connectivity. And you look around and you can scan the whole of Gaia with your mind's eye. And we finally arrived. We finally arrived at this Eden, at this magical 0 point of perfection. Just feel that in your body. Feel your body resonate and remember that time. Memory can travel forwards just as easily as it can travel backwards. So just breathe in the frequencies of Gaia and humanity. And then in my contemplation, what I'd like to share is that humanity has gone. Humanity has ascended as one collectivity. It's found its perfect quintessence, its crystallization of our consciousness as love, as deep core wisdom, as truth. It's the salmon that's returned to its source. Except there's one man left. One man. And if you'll just wait to hear the story, why is this one man here? Who is he? And I asked myself this question in a deep vision when I saw this one man, and I was inside this one man, and a whisper came to me, I am the final father. I am the final father. And inside this father, go inside with your awareness deep inside this being. Everyone else has left. There's this one being left behind. And inside the final father, things are happening. He's sitting here in this glade, in this very glade, perhaps, sitting there quietly, alone on the earth. The creatures all around him, the birds, everything interconnected, beautiful Gaia. And inside the final father, resolutions are happening. Every single one of us, right here now, and every other human being who's ever been and whoever will be, is inside the final father as a soul essence. All our storylines, from the very beginning to the very end, are contained in the final father, and they're resolved in the final father. All the wars, all the traumas, all the hierarchy, all the horror, all the aggression, all the mothers who lost their children and never found them. All of those storylines, slowly, slowly, as he sits here, are resolved. So the mother finds her child, and the horrors are forgiven. And every single human storyline is forgiven as the father sits here, and all these timelines coalesce inside his being, and resolution continues to reoccur and reoccur. And slowly, slowly, as all these acts and deeds and loves and fears and sorrows and grief, as they are all brought together deep in the belly of the final father, this incredible feeling of completion starts to fall upon him. And the very final threads are healed and completed and resolved and woven. And then slowly, a smile begins to break open on the final father's lips. Deep, deep smile. Feel it inside you now. Feel that smile, the Buddha smile. We're done. This is it. We're done. And then slowly the belly starts to rock, and he starts to laugh. The final father starts to laugh. And he's laughing, and he's laughing. And it breaks him open. And the whole planet and the Gaia and all the creatures hear this laughter that resounds everywhere. And then slowly, moment by moment, the cells of his being photosynthesize, and he starts to disappear. He starts to ascend, taking with him all memories of humanity, all timelines. And in a period of time, maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month, it's close to timelessness, he's gone. And he joins the rest of the human family in a higher plane of consciousness at the beginning of another story. But the thread of the final father remains here and returns back to the beginning of time, and he meets the primordial mother. And just as the final father was there at the end, the primordial mother was there at the beginning. And all the primordial mother does endlessly is give birth over and over again to new forms, new beings, giving birth. She began the story, he completes the story. All the story of all the hierarchy and all the patriarchy and all those things, they're resolved in the coming together of these divine lovers. Finally, they get to be together again. The beginning and the end of the journey, and Gaia in the middle. And they are so happy beyond belief that they can be together again, these divine lovers that have lived inside every single human being for eons. And then he turns to her and he says, "Whew, that was fun. Should we do it all over again?" And that's my story. I'm going to ask Zach Bush, who I can't quite believe I'm standing next to, infamous warrior of light, to add a bit more flesh to that story and take it in his own unique Zach Bush direction.
Thank you, Richard. Well, when I open my eyes, I definitely want to ask, should we do it again? Because I want to do it again. I want to do it again. I want to do it again. And it just struck me as I was going back, living that story a second time through, that for as pristine as my body feels when he's got us at that 0 point, and we're in that moment of just absolute elation that everything does complete, and that every heart broken is so that it can grow larger and be filled again, so that it can break again, and every loss is so that the rejoining can happen. And there's such a peace in the body when I reach that completion. But I happened to open my eyes this time right when I was in that piece of the 0 point, and I looked around at this mess that we're in together, and I don't want to stop the mess, because I think this is what we signed up for. We signed up for the mess, y'all. It's such a blessing. And so if we really wanted to just stay at 0 point, and we wanted to just feel that level of peace and bliss, why the hell would he have chosen a human journey? Wrong left turn. You chose the mess, and you chose a messy of messy times, and you chose this moment to be in it. And so what's been happening in the last few months for me is an ever-increasing capacity to feel things that I had been taught by a whole society not to feel. And all of my feelings had been boiled down like an extraordinary methodology of chemistry and alchemy into emotions instead of feelings. Just like high fructose corn syrup is distilled down from maize, which is one of the gods of South America. We took a god and we turned it into high fructose corn syrup. We did that as human beings. This is the mess we're in, is we will take the sacred and we will desecrate it. And one of the great minds and poets of the 20th century that remains ethereal in this crowd, I think, is famous for having said, until we know all places as sacred, we will only create desecrated places. And so it's this eagerness to go find the sacred outside of our homes, outside of our places, for which we continue to justify the desecration of every other place. And this is the danger of festival life, ultimately, as we go and find and declare and create sacred space, having left behind a desecrated space that we will go back to on Monday, called London. And we will go back to that desecrated space. New York too, and so it wasn't a fiat thing. I mean, long live the king. But it is interesting how we tend to escape the messy to try to find the sacred, when in fact, of course, we are the sacred that chose the mess so that we could experience the feelings that we continue to reduce to emotions. And so this is an opportunity for you to realize that you have been handed a social construct, a neurologic construct of emotions that is driving you towards a state of disconnect from your final capacity as the final mother, as the final father, both within you, signed up for the messy so that it could feel everything. That's worth cheering for. When we feel things, it metabolizes through our system so quickly. When we experience an emotion, it has no place to go, similar to high fructose corn syrup. It turns out when you drink a soda with high fructose corn syrup, your body does not even recognize that as a carbohydrate. It's in a shape it does not recognize because, interestingly, it's the same molecule as fructose, as would happen in one of these apple trees that we have to walk through to get through that. Isn't that cool that we have to walk through the apple trees to get into medicine? Because the apple was the original thing that really screwed us up, we're told, I think. But here we are back at the apple tree, and the mother is saying, should we do it again? Should we go eat of that tree of knowledge so that we dive back into the mess again? And so we walk through the apples, and we walk through this process. And interestingly, to take that fructose to a potent toxin that will destroy a human biology, you just need the mirror image of it. So high fructose corn syrup is the racemic, which is the scientific name for the mirror image of naturally occurring fructose. And so they were able to patent that molecule. Same shape, same carbon, same oxygen, same hydrogen, just the mirror image, and it's the poison. Isn't there a deep lesson in that? The sweetness of life, mirror imaged, will be the poison of life. It is when we stare into the mirror and don't realize that it's us we're looking at, we just live a poisonous life. And so if you keep staring into the mirror of life and you keep being embittered by it and you keep being poisoned by it, it may be that you need to stop looking in the mirror and start to look at yourself, because you are the sugar. You are the sweetness of this life, and you are the sweetness of this land that we call home. And so you guys are in this together. And there's an invitation for us to begin again, as Richard has invited us to do, as the final father and mother have come together to ask us, should we do it again? And we know that we must do it again if we choose to stay and play, because we have reached a stage in human history that is fascinating. There's been many cataclysmic events in human history. I think every generation for tens of thousands of years has said, this must be the end times, this must be it. But what they were always looking at was external phenomenon when they were thinking that this must be the end of times. They were looking at cataclysmic changes in weather or empire rise and fall. They were looking outside of themselves and being like, this must be the end times. We're at a very interesting, different end times where we can take microscopes now and look within us and say, oh my God, we're at the end times, because our children can no longer have children. The sperm counts could be 0 by 2050 at our current rate of decline. 1 in 3 males on this planet right now is infertile. We've lost 60% of sperm counts in Western countries over my short lifetime. 60% of sperm counts gone. We're on this cataclysmic trajectory within ourselves to the end of something. And so we no longer need the rise and fall of empires. We no longer need American politicians to give us a sense of the end of times. But we can look within us and say, my God, Autoimmune disease is now 1 in 3 women on the planet. 1 in 3 women see their body as the enemy, and they're destroying it with their own immune system. The enemy lies within us now. The end lies within us. And what has happened to generate that? It's not just the high fructose corn syrup. I think it's the emotional trauma that we have stored in the body that cannot metabolize through, and so we have stored it. And we have lost connection to nature, which was the way in which we metabolized everything. She is the alchemist. We are the chemicals. She is here to alchemize the salt of the earth into sweetness again, if we will rejoin her flow. But in our separation from her, we could no longer process, and so we have stored the high fructose corn syrups of human emotion, and for that we have collected human trauma at the genetic level that has brought our species to its endpoint. And this is exciting because the final mother has asked if she wants to do it again. And the answer is a resounding yes. Biology is ready to do it again within you. But we cannot pass on your genetics in the way in which it stands within you, because your genetics as it stands is a library, an epilogue to 40 or 40,000 generations of emotional trauma stored within you, passed on generation to generation to this stewing pressure cooker of destruction within us. And so we have to supersede the genetics we inherited from mom and dad. And for goodness sakes, the science is starting to show us how that is done. And it has to do with water. And it turns out that DNA is held in its extraordinarily beautiful double helix by the water crystal within each cell. And when you change the conformation of that crystal water inside your cells, the shape of the DNA must change. And we've been told a story that perhaps at one time we were 12-stranded DNA creatures. And then we were shattered into a 2-stranded DNA by a poison that was put into us, which may have been a gene or it may have been something that our genes were exposed to. But we were diminished to a 2-stranded DNA, and we were easy to control in this diminished state of belief that we were of source and belonging to this Gaia. And so we've been walking around easy to control. And so there's been these prophecies in a lot of indigenous cultures that we would reach this point. We would reach this point of rebirth in which a 12-stranded DNA would re-enter our reality, and we will simply express a different humanity, and our hearts will explode in ways that we cannot imagine. And the ways in which we hurt each other will shift, maybe not end, but we will change the way we do trauma to one another, and we will metabolize through our feelings rather than store our emotions. This all sounded pretty highfalutin and kind of glorious and hopeful to me as a doctor coming out of chemotherapy development and everything else out of 17 years of academia. Sounded a little on the woo-woo side, and you all look a little freaky. And if I had showed up here 14 years ago, I would have just turned around the parking lot and left. But y'all have got me like, I'm like the frog in the boiling water where I show up now. I'm like, yeah, this looks good. This is good. I'm good here. What could possibly go wrong here? This looks good. And then about 2 years ago, for the first time, we got to see 4-stranded DNA in human cells. 4-stranded DNA just happened. Crystallography just showed 4-stranded DNA for the first time in human cells. Something is changing. How many of you just felt that in your body? 4-stranded DNA. Can I tell you which type of cell 4-stranded DNA was discovered in? Just put an answer in your own mind. Which cell in the human body do you think would generate the first 4-stranded DNA? Heart, of course. Of course. But it wasn't the heart. Human cancer cells are the first to achieve 4-stranded DNA. And my expertise in cancer can tell you how and why that probably happened. Is because a cancer cell has to reach a point of complete loneliness to become a cancer cell. It has to be completely isolated from the rest of the organism before it will decide to become a generative machine just to hang on to the last semblance of life. And so the final father within any human is its cancer cell. And it thinks all other things have died. And that cancer cell, having forgotten where it came from, will forget the 40 generations or 40,000 generations of trauma and it will start to resonate in the frequency of source, your identity, your true identity, that's quantum entangled with every cell in your body. And so now it's not mom and dad shaping the water structure, it's your soul. Cancer cells reach this fourth dimension state, this extra dimensional state that allows DNA to go into 4 strands. It tells us something very important about the moment we are in, which is that loneliness is the feeling we all need to tap into and stop running from. Because when you become a lonely cell, you stop believing that you came from those of your stories, and you start to come from source, yourself. And so lean into loneliness in 2024. If you are going to do anything for the next 3 months, do not run from your loneliness, but run into it. Run into your loneliness and know that this is the most sacred thing you can feel in this time, because you become the final father ready for the final mother when you embody that loneliness and you let that symptom of our abandonment disorder from nature metabolize finally through us. Because we need to stop running from that loneliness, because it is not true. You are not alone. You are absolutely embraced by everything in nature, and everything in nature is coming through you, and it is speaking through you, it is feeling through you, it is experiencing you, and you are experiencing all of it. And so you are the final mother, you are the final father, you are here to become this new expression of humanity, and let's let the old one go extinct. Not out of anger, not out of judgment, not out of frustration, not out of conspiracy theory, but out of love and out of forgiveness for the human journey. We can forgive it all. Bring up anybody you've had bitterness towards and forgive that person right now in your loneliness and say, I am so sorry because I didn't realize how important you were in pushing me into my isolation and breaking all of the ties that I was holding on to you with. I'm sorry that I was bitter towards that. I'm so grateful that you have broken me down to this isolated, lonely being so that I can be part of the final story of the old humanity that is ready to let go. I'm ready to go into the loneliness. And you have before you a man who has downloaded a story called Gene Keys. And so we are going to turn over our DNA to Richard Rudd, one of the most profound beings on the planet.
Hey, damn, that man gives good hugs. That was awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to pick up the thread there a little bit. How are we all doing? Good? Should we do a little just to unite the field? Just one just one big, deep breath, connecting us all, just like Ready? Deep breath. Beautiful. I did that for myself. So I'm more of a poet and a mystic than, Zach is this incredible scientist. And so what happened for me is I looked at DNA through the lens of that, through the lens of being of a deep mystical experience. Oh, I had a mystical experience. Anyone else here had a mystical experience? Okay, because I don't want to have to feel special, right? Oh, good. I'm glad there's loads and loads of you. So I had a mystical, spontaneous experience, and in that experience, my body filled with light, and I became aware of this DNA, this coding in my being, in my body. And I had 3 days to really get acquainted with it, because the grace gifted me this amount of time to explore this state, these codes of consciousness that now, many years later, became what I call the gene keys. Which are the codes, the 64 codes, codons, that build human life, and in fact, all life on this planet, on Gaia. So it's looking at this quantum code and understanding how it works and its mathematics is an extraordinary thing. And many, many people have been doing this, especially since, obviously, the discovery of genetics and DNA. But the Chinese discovered the same code 5 to 10,000 years ago from a guy having a deep contemplation, looking into the back of a tortoise, and he looked in the back of this tortoise sitting on the Yellow River, and he saw this code, and he started to intuit this code, and it was then developed, and it became the Chinese I Ching with 64 codes, 64 hexagrams, and they're created out of the same structure, mathematical structure as DNA, with these triplets that create hexagons, that create the same structure. So it's a really remarkable thing. So this code lives inside us, and as I started to contemplate this code myself over many years, I started to write, because I'm a writer. So I started to write this book called, I didn't know it was called The Gene Keys, I just started to write it. And I contemplated these 64 aspects of consciousness. And I didn't kind of look up a reference. I'm not an I Ching expert. I did have some great teachers from China, but I just put it all aside, and I just let life teach me. And I took 7 years, and I wrote this book called Gene Keys. And in the middle of that book, because I didn't write it in order, I just picked a random one, and then I would wait, and then it would come, and something would happen in my life, and the wisdom of life and nature taught me. And then I would write from that place of spontaneous wisdom. And I had this one moment where this one key came, Gene Key 55. As it happens to be, if you look at the book or you get involved in looking at this teaching, I think you can look up Gene Key 55. I think there's a copy of it somewhere for free online. And in it was this huge prophecy. And I kind of looked at it and I went, I'm not sure I want to go in that direction. Prophecy, that's a little bit, It kind of spoils the book. No one will take it seriously if it's got this huge, massive prophecy in the middle of it. Anyway, so I wrote the prophecy, and it was 20 times longer than any of the other keys in a way. And out of it came this story of the change of humanity, this genetic change of humanity. And I also was inspired by another teacher, Ra Uru, who downloaded the human design system, another system connected. So I want a nod to him here because he was a great teacher and mentor himself. And he also saw this prophecy, although his version of it was a bit more apocalyptic than mine. So you're going to get a brighter version from me. And sorry, Ra, wherever you are, up in the clouds, you're going to get another version. And, what I see, what came for me was this symbolism, this allegory of the life cycle of the dragonfly. And I just spent a week in Norfolk on the Broads and the rivers and just sailing. And it was a kingdom of dragonflies at this time of year. Green, blue, red, orange, iridescent creatures, incredible creatures. And I don't know if you know this, but the dragonfly begins its life as an underwater creature, like a larvae, and it's a very successful predator underwater, and it lives for 2-3 years as a kind of lackluster gray predator creature living under the water, and that's its life. And then one day something happens, some sleeping gene encoded deep in its DNA triggers an event, and that event makes the dragonfly reach up through the water. So it finds a stalk of grass or a reed, and it climbs slowly up towards the light, and it's never left the underwater environment before. So it doesn't know what it's doing at one level. So it's climbing up, and it comes towards the sun, and then it's out of the water, and it's clinging to this reed. And then literally in the space of 4 or 5 hours, this incredible transmutation takes place. And this thorax uncurls, and the water from its old life pumps with hydraulics, through hydraulic pressure, pumps open these incredible wings, and this creature starts to unravel. And it goes from being a gray, nymph, underwater creature, to this incredible, iridescent, four-winged, unbelievably aerodynamic, complex insect that is. I feel I have to welcome the new wave coming through the heart of our story here. Welcome, dragonflies. Nice timing. Okay. I wasn't expecting this. We'll go with it.
I told you you're more famous than me.
We could be here sometime. I'll tell you the story over the songs. Okay? Yeah. I'll just raise my voice. Thank you. The point about this story is the life cycle of the dragonfly and its transformation is not linear. So we can sit around and we can discuss what AI is going to do for us, and we can project all kinds of savior things onto politicians or onto technology, or it's going to save us, this is going to save us, that's going to save us. But as Zach said, we're not victims, so we don't need saving. We need to go inside, and that's where the saving is taking place. It's taking place deep inside our DNA, because this whole process that we're in is written. It's already happening. It's meant to happen this way. It's meant to happen through this incredible melting pot, this process. And how does a genetic mutation take hold across a whole species? It's happened before. In the far distant past, it happened in humans before. So it's bound to happen again. And what does a body need? What kind of an environment does a mutation need? It needs heat. It often needs chaos, and it needs trauma sometimes, because it needs to be shaken. And we are that. We need to be shaken up. And that's what this process is. And so we can't imagine really the life of the dragonfly. We're in that process of walking up, climbing up the stalk right now. But what does the future human look like on the other side of this change? It's virtually unimaginable. It's an acausal event. We think we're going to go in this direction. Yeah, we think we're going to get to Mars, and then technology is going to take us here, and this is going to happen. And we predict through our linear, progressive minds, and we can put as much data behind that as we want. But you never expect the unexpected, right? It's like it arrives in the middle of your talk. Something unexpected. And that's what's going to happen to humanity. Something deeply unexpected. It won't be linear. It can't be linear. Look at the dragonfly. There was nothing linear about that. 3 years under the water, predator, victim of the environment. 3 hours, completely different. Creature of the air, creature of a dragon for Christ's sake. Do we need a better symbol? So for me, that's been my journey, is exploring how this change might come and how we can adapt and be ready for it. How do we get ready for the unexpected? That's my question to you, Zach.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we get a time check? What's the time right now? 20 minutes? All right. Very good. Wait, that's amazing. He said we had to split it 20 in 20 minutes. I was like, that's never going to happen. And high five. That was amazing. That's the unexpected, is when things happen on time. My favorite quote from The Lord of the Rings is from Gandalf: "A wizard is never late." And I use this all the time because people telling me I'm late. But It's my most memorized quote of all times. So what's the unexpected look like? I think the unexpected is that the antidote is always inside the wound. And we have spent so much time running from our wounds and covering up our wounds and palliating our wounds and distracting ourselves from the wounds that we don't heal. And so we have to learn the lesson again. And so we sit there and be like, I'm still hurting. It's because you keep jamming your fingers in your wound and you won't let the thing close. And so the unexpected is going to be when we start to realize that the feelings we're feeling are the journey that we're supposed to be on. Whereas right now we spend so much time thinking the feelings are showing us the problems in our lives, or the feelings are the demonstration that we're not at the right place, or because we're feeling this way we can't get our act together, or whatever. It's always the excuse rather than the solution. And so the unexpected is going to become when we just feel completely. And so given the fact that we've got 20 minutes, I'm going to take a few minutes to take you on a journey, and then I'm going to have Richard close us out wherever we think we need to get to. But I want to do something unexpected to the world today, because the world is doing their thing today. Somebody's out getting frustrated at their boss. Somebody's being a frustrating boss. Some mother is at the end of her rope with her child with autism who is still hitting his head on the wall 6 or 8 hours a day in agony, and she's just exhausted of watching the suffering of her own child. Somewhere in the world, there's a politician who is desperately afraid that they're making all of the wrong decisions for people they've been put in responsibility for. Somewhere in an ICU, a doctor knows he's about to make the wrong decision and put poison into the vein of another person that is not going to benefit from that poison. There's so many things happening, and so we need to do the unexpected for all of these people that are doing the thing that they feel like they cannot escape. And so today we're going to just set off a gong in the middle of Somerset here, if that's where we are. And I love when you ask people about the UK. They're always like, this or that. And like, nobody in the world knows what you're talking about. Nobody knows where you are. And like, okay, like, oh, I'm over in this shire or this shire. And like, oh, fan-freaking-tastic. What city is that near? Like, isn't that adorable? It drives the rest of us absolutely bonkers, but we're somewhere in the sweet countryside of the UK right now. And we're going to set off a freaking gong for this earth right now. So let's do that. But to get there, we're going to have to go into the wound. So if you want to go ahead and close your eyes, I want you to go so deep into the loneliness that you have felt in your life. I don't know if you can feel it now, or something's taking you there, or if you've only been there briefly in your life, or maybe you don't even know what loneliness would really feel like because your life has been so full of beauty and it's never been disrupted. Bless that life. But I want you to go into the loneliness right now so that we can rebirth your water structure into a sacred geometry that has not been experienced by you or this world in eons. Settle into your loneliness. Know that no other being on the planet cares about you. Know that when you die, no other being is going to remember you within a few breaths of human history. Know that you are just here alone. And feel that human state of loneliness. I want you to lay down in the loneliness now. So close your eyes and drift down and lay down in the hammock of your pelvic floor. Your head at your tailbone, your toes up at your pubic bone. Lay down in that hammock and realize how lonely it feels in the center of you. People pretend to know you, people think they know you, but people do not know you. And so feel what that feels like, just to be in this space. And now we're going to start to resonate at a frequency of awareness that your organs disappear, and you're now looking up through the cathedral of your torso. And there's a ceiling to that cathedral that is your breastbone, the sternum, floating high above the floor of the cathedral. The foundation are the vertebrae stacked one on another, going up towards the neck. And coming out of those foundation stones of your vertebrae are these beautiful flying buttresses of the ribs that hold the heavy ceiling of your chest above the heart cavity. And the cathedral is hung with beauty. This is a dazzling space. This is the Holy of Holies in which you decided to embody a life. You decided to animate biology, which is a condensation of light energy that burns literally 10,000 times brighter per cubic centimeter than physics. The brightest thing physics does is a star. The first cell, a single bacteria, is 1,000 times brighter. It's a condensation of light energy that is necessary to create life. And to get multicellular life like your human biology, you have to be 10,000 times brighter than a sun. And so this cathedral is dazzling. The walls are crystalline and it is shining. It is a spectacular space to witness, and I want you to start to realize that at this frequency of light and this density of light, 10,000 times that of a sun, you can transcend gravity, you can transcend space-time, you can anything, alchemize anything. And so I want you to start to float up from this space out of gravity and start to float up through the cathedral of your own castle here. Float up through this cathedral towards those first set of ribs. And I want you to stare into those ribs to realize that the entire history of your life has been writ into the crystalline structure of the bone, and it is your library of everything ever felt, seen, thought, experienced, loved, lost, is writ in the bones. And so see that Akashic record of your own life there writ in runes, and keep floating upwards, one dazzling set of ribs after another. And as you go, look upwards and up through that last set of ribs that's getting narrower and narrower. As you go up towards the neck, there's a bright spot of white light that's blinding right in the center of that dark zone that you would call the neck. And you're going to float up out of that last set of ribs, and you're going to float towards that white light. You're going to float towards the base of the skull, and you're suddenly going to animate to yourself into that space. And it's called the pineal gland. And it's like a tiny little pine cone the size of a pea. A perfect crystal pine cone that is absorbing a small beam of light coming down from above and then projecting that as a lens of a projector at the back of the movie theater would project it down, and you can look down and realize it's projecting the sacred geometry of a soul onto the floor of your pelvis that you were just lying on. And that cone of light carrying that energy now from the projector is projecting you, a self-identity that's quantum entangled into every single cell, every single molecule, every single atom within that animation of a body is quantum entangled with your core identity that is projecting through this lens. And so come back into the lens now and just let that shimmer saturate everything within you. This is a high frequency. Perhaps you can hear it in your ears right now. It is almost a deafening humming, buzzing noise. It's like the drone of 1,000,000 dragonflies here. And now you're going to take this ride up out of the pineal gland, and you're going to ride that beam of light up above the head now. Rise out of your body. Take a deep breath as you no longer are limited by the physicality of a body, and you are back up into your original space. And I want you to feel what that feels like above you, and I want you to start to tune into your senses and experience the original math of the soul that animated within a womb of a mother such that 70 trillion cells would find themselves into a perfect 10-toed, 10-fingered child that is you. And now stretch those toes and fingers outside the body now and realize that you are in the original math in this space. It floats above the physical body, projecting itself down, ultimately to animate that body. But right now, you're just in the original math. And so witness it. Look around you and see what shapes are there, what colors are there, what does the sound emanate like, what does it smell like, what does the air feel like in your original geometry. Each of you have a very different experience in this space. Each of you are a unique sacred geometry that spells an aspect of the divine, of the source of all things. Take a deep breath in and just absorb that original math into your being. And now with the exhale, we're going to ride that beam of light back down into the body. Look down and see the top of your head. Float down into it. Are you willing to take on the original math before your mother, before your father, before your grandfather, your grandmother, and beyond? Are you ready to become from self? Lay your hand gently on your own head. You cannot ever be alone because you are with yourself here. Care for this child below you. You carry within you the first mother, the first father. You are the sacred geometry of the masculine and feminine. You always were, always are, always will be that balance of the masculine and feminine. You are the first mother. You are the first father of yourself. You did not come from your earthly mother and father. You came through that portal to experience their loneliness, their trauma, their journey, but you are not of them. You are of yourself, and yourself, that final masculine, that first masculine, first mother, gave birth to a child, and that child now sits beneath your hand being blessed by your own original math. Let's enter that child with the original math. I want you to picture yourself now as you return back towards that hammock. I want you to imagine an event horizon, a beam of circle of light coming out of you in every direction, 360-degree circle coming out of you. And you're going to download the original math now into every cell of the body as you transit down through your torso, through your mind first. Let the brain update with the original source, the original net math, the original information, and now bring that down into every cell of this cathedral that is you. That is your body that you have chosen to animate into its perfection. Update all of the original math. Feel the water structure changing. And look at the walls of the cathedral and realize that the writing in your ribs is actually rewriting. You can see it actually fall away. It's being erased and rewritten. Your story is being rewritten. You are not of the trauma of emotions. You are of the feeling of being an animated being come from source. Look at the story be rewrit in the bones of your chest. Your story is being rewritten now. Drift downwards. Rewriting every cell, rewriting the original self. Coming from source. Lay down in the floor of your own pelvis now. Relax. Feel the sunshine as you lay down in the hammock of your own Danqian, your own center space. You can never be lonely because you are your mother and your father. You are the source, the masculine and feminine, and your hand is upon you. And you are loved, and you are born again and again and again. And the gong we're going to set off to the world today is to come back to the world, come walking back into the world with four-stranded DNA resonating to the original math, and we will look around in grace, and we will smile at the journey of the mess that we walked into, and we will invite those around us to feel the loneliness rather than run from it. We will ask them if they have felt lonely today, and when they say yes, we will celebrate. Because we have friends, and we are among friends. Richard, my friend, can you come up and close us out here?
How long do we have?
5 minutes. Sorry about that.
So, thank you, Zach. Holding that space. One of the questions was, what do we need to do? What do we need to do to prepare for the unexpected? And really, it's this, the biome, the belly. create a strong connection to our belly, to our biome. This is the place where we're all connected. This is the place where there's more DNA in us than any other by thousands and thousands of times more DNA in here, in the gut. This is the place where we're all connected. In my work with the gene keys, gene key 44, one of the other master numbers, the double-digit numbers, 44, 55, it's the word that we use for the highest frequency of that key is synarchy. Beautiful word, synarchy. Not hierarchy, not heterarchy, synarchy. Synarchy means we all lead together. It means that there is a self-organizing intelligence in the universe and in humanity, and it is orchestrating and choreographing all of this. Our gut is a self-organizing intelligence. It's a microcosm of humanity, of intelligence itself. And so we really honor the work Zach's been doing with the gut and gut health, and all of you are doing, many of you are doing this work. And so I would invite you to really keep connecting with this part of your body and build a very strong earth connection. And I realize also that that's really the thing that we share, that you and I share in common, is that we love nature. You know, I wouldn't be here, you know, if you give me the choice, I'm somewhere out in a field, I'm in the woods, I'm with my family, I'm on a boat, I'm staring at the trees, listening to the wind. That's where I want to be. Connecting with the spirits of the nature that's around us. And that's what we really need to do more. And that's why, you know, in the last kind of couple of years, I developed a program that involved interviewing lots of indigenous elders. So I want to bring back to the end of our talk here, like back to those elders and the elders of this earth and this land, England, and all the people that are here from indigenous cultures. And all of us, we're all indigenous, actually, one way or another. And I interviewed these different amazing people, and at the end of the question, my question for them was, okay, you know, given all this change that's happening, and we're going to go through this massive transformational process, so, what's the most powerful thing we can do? That was my question. And almost every single time, these people, grandmothers, grandfathers, elders, beautiful people, they would say, prayer, prayer, prayer. And I was brought up a Christian kind of, I was like, prayer? What, sitting in a church saying those hollow words like, Our Father who art in heaven, sorry if you're a Christian, that's a very powerful prayer, actually, but you get my drift, right? I've been told I shouldn't say anything about religion, so sorry, damn, I so nearly made it to the end. Anyway, yes, prayer. Prayer, I'm going to have to finish with a prayer to make up for that slip. This is a prayer that I do. I've said every morning. Sorry, wrong way around. Hello? Yes. This is a prayer that I say every morning. I must have said it thousands and thousands of times. It's very easy. It's very short. It has some mudras that go with it. And I now do it, and even when I just think it, it immediately activates the prayer. And that's what I didn't know what prayer was until I started doing it. And then I realized the indigenous people and the ancients and our ancestors do these rituals and prayers over and over and over and over again every day for thousands and thousands of years for a really good reason, because you get really high from doing it and you get really still from doing it, and you access that same field that Zach just took us into, but very quickly. And a prayer can be something very simple. You can write your own prayer, you can use a traditional prayer, you can use anything. And I've been writing prayers for several years now, and this is one of my favorites. It's called the Holy Incantation of Solace. And solace is is my word for peace. You know, peace is the theme here. You know, peace, solace is a beautiful word. It means peace, and it also entails courage, and it also entails love, maybe even a little bit of sacrifice in a positive way. It's a beautiful word. So incantation of solace. And the mudras, I won't go deep into them, but you know, they're pretty simple. So you can watch this and you can do it along with me. May love pour through our souls, weaving us together as one. May love pour through our souls, weaving us together as one. The second one, the mudra, just is the same, but it just opens up a little bit. It's called a Chintamani mudra. It's like a little hollow that you create over your chest. That's beautiful. And imagine a little light in there. It's like a little candle light. Chintamani is the wish-fulfilling gem. Like it's our heart. The wish-fulfilling gem lives in our heart. Your wildest dreams can come true when you follow your heart. May light flower in our hearts. May light flower in our hearts as we transform fear into grace. As we transform fear into grace. And feel that. And then the next one here, the belly, hold your belly. May warmth radiate our belly, bringing prosperity to all. May warmth radiate our bellies, bringing prosperity to all. And this is a prayer for the whole of humanity, for the whole of Gaia. May warmth radiate our bellies, bringing prosperity for all. And then the next one, hold your pinky finger of your right hand and grab it with your left palm, your fingers, and then close it off and put your index fingers up. Don't worry if you don't get that. So you're holding your little pinky finger, but then you're putting your index fingers up. You can get this off the internet if you want. May purity shimmer in our bones, filling us with the light of the ancient stars. May purity shimmer in our bones, filling us with the light of ancient stars. Feel the stars in your bones. This is an easy one. May kindness resound in our voice. Make a fist and hold it. May kindness resound in our voice, softening the way that lies ahead. Beautiful, you guys. May kindness resound in our voice, softening the way that lies ahead.
May kindness soften our voice.
Feel that going out over the next few days. Put your fingertips to your thumbs. There's a couple more. And then bring it together. May clarity shine through our mind as we lie in the arms of the infinite beloved. May clarity shine through our mind as we lie in the arms of the infinite beloved. May solace abound in our lives, touching all who we meet. May solace abound in our lives, touching all who we meet. And the last one, may solace abound in the world, bringing all beings into perfect union. Loud, may solace abound in the world, bringing all beings into perfect union. Ahu.
Aho.
Thank you so much.
Love you guys. Honored to be with you. Let's go dance.